maybe a little less.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, so we're now onto the section of how your general perception of the transition during the pandemic. So which part of the transition felt most difficult? What are the biggest obstacles you encountered as you transitioned into this organization last year?
do you want specifically pandemic related ones or just general? So maybe I'll just say it. So here's part of the challenge. Well, okay. I guess this is pandemic related. Okay. So part of the challenge with this position was that it was first posted in June of 2020 and with the intention of it starting at the academic year. So August, right? Like most academic, or, August 1st, like most, I applied for it, didn't hear anything. As you, I'm sure know, that's totally normal in academic positions. You just sometimes are, right? Like you just sometimes don't hear anything because you have too many applicants. I didn't really think anything of it. I was like, yeah, okay, didn't hear anything, no big deal. And so, my postdoc was able to sort of go indefinitely. I mean, not indefinitely, definitely, but like I had another year so I was like happily puttering along at my postdoc. And then I got this call kind of out of the blue in early October that said, hey, you applied for this position back in June or May, or it was early. And I'd like completely forgotten about it. Didn't even think about it. I was like, oh, and it's been unfrozen now. And so we're trying to fill it as soon as possible. Would you be available for interview this Friday? And so it was like 2 days later. So I guess in a way that is pandemic related because, so many universities really shut down the spending. And so this position had been coming up and available. Or they posted for it and then weren't able to hire into it because of the pandemic. And then as soon as the university unfroze it, they like jumped on it. And I literally started for them 2 weeks later. Like I interviewed on a Friday and I started like 16 days later.
Oh, I see.
So I wrapped up my postdoc. I mean, that's generous. I don't know that I've even wrapped up my postdoc now because I still work with them and write manuscript. Like we're still in the middle of journal manuscripts right now. Right? Like you never really get let go. And so, but so like that, so that was, I will say like October is an awkward time to transition in a university world. Right? Cause like people have kind of started already. And actually it got even sort of extra awkward because it's awkward in an academic world to transition mid-semester.
Right.
But then even within extension, which is the department we're studying in, their year really goes, in an agricultural state like the one I work in, it's very much state fair oriented. So state fair happens in the end of August, early September. So I joined right after state fair. So everyone was sort of in a like, we're exhausted. This is the end of the year, kind of like wrap up. How most academics feel in like May, right? That's where everyone was. And so it's just, everyone's a little tired and a little like not ready to start new ideas. And here I'm this new person being like, new idea, let's go. And everyone's like, no. So that was a little awkward, but I mean, everyone was very good natured about it. So, I forgot what the question was. I'm sorry.
No, but that I think that answers my question. And and that's why I mean, you had to take that new faculty orientation 2021, right?
Right. It didn't come because I'd already missed. I'd already missed that round.
Okay.
Which is a bummer because I have to say, there are a bunch of things and then I didn't realize this literally like, maybe 4 weeks ago, I kept getting these emails for new employees and extension. I was like, why am I on this list? I've been here for a year. And I finally like reached out to the person who runs it and was like, why am I on this email? And she was like, because you didn't take, like you missed it last year. And I was like, and I was looking at the agenda and was like, a lot of those things would have been really useful. But then I like had to figure out on my own.
Right.
Like, it turns out there was a training, but like now, of course, I know them, so it doesn't make sense for me to be part of like the new employee training when I'm a year in. So super awkward start date.
Yes. Yeah. And then this question, it could be more related to pandemic, or your answer could be the same. But what did you feel like you have been missing out on because you joined this organization during the pandemic?
Lots of in-person, just that like informal connection time. Not sort of, and that like, one of our constant discussions in the department is sort of how proud everyone is about what an incredible job they did in transitioning into a pandemic environment, how going from like completely in-person things. I mean, we're talking like these are people who work with cows some of the time, like literally stuff like that. Like it is an agricultural department, but I'm not. I have nothing to do with cows or any other animal or dirt. Like not my thing. I'm all about the engineering. But like not having, like you can tell that people kind of bonded over sharing that experience together of transitioning pandemic. And I came sort of after everything had started to calm down, especially in that state. Right? Like things were like people who were going to get vaccinated there were vaccinated for the most part. Like, they just like sort of had already, and the ones who weren't didn't care because they live like 50 miles away from somebody else kind of thing. So yes, I mean that I did sort of, and they still talk about it, like this transition and like, and I sort of just, sit there quietly in those moments because I'm like, I wasn't a part of it. So like, we'll have these, all staff discussions that are about, like reflecting back on our transition into, remote teaching. I'm like, like I wasn't there for that. I have nothing to say about the before. Sorry. So yeah, so that was a little awkward, sort of not bad. It's not a bad way. I just sort of joke about it, but,
yeah,
that was hard.
Yeah.
That was hard.
Yeah.
That was probably the most challenging part of it. And then just, the natural challenge of making connections remotely. But I was in a weird, like I'd already been doing a remote postdoc. So I already knew how to connect with people remotely.
Yeah. Okay.
Like I sort of already navigated that, like, how do I do this world?
Right.
So that was a little less awkward for me than I think it was for a lot of people. Like I already knew, right? Like when people switch to Zoom, I already knew how to use Zoom.
Yeah.
It wasn't a big deal.
Yeah. For some people, it's a big deal, but
it was a big deal. I mean, like I literally study how do communities form for teachers online. Like that is, so I kind of know how to do it.
Right.
Kind of. I know how to do it. I should just.
Yeah, you know. Yeah.
I know what I'm doing.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to be sensitive to the time. So we have 12 minutes. Okay, but now that you've been part of this organization for about a year, what are the things that you know very well and you feel most confident about in terms of doing this job?
Sometimes I don't feel like confident about anything. I feel like I keep learning new things and meeting new people. There's so many people to meet. I do feel much more confident about the like understanding the structure of the organization and sort of what's possible, which was challenging in the beginning, especially because it's not even just a university, which I am comfortable with, but this idea of extension, which I had no idea about coming in, not a clue. And so I feel much more comfortable with that. And I know who to ask questions, like who's my go-to person, who kind of do I ask this question of? I know how to do more stuff like, just like the little tidbitly stuff, like who do I talk to about like getting this, financial code applied correctly? Who am I talking to about grants?
Yes.
Who am I right. The stuff like that. Like I know sort of who to ask the questions of now. Or I know if I don't know who to ask the question of, I know who to ask.
Yeah, connect to it.
Right, like who's the person who can tell me who to ask?
Yeah.
So I mean, certainly like sometimes those things are so constraining. If you don't even know, you kind of get stuck. Like I don't get stuck very often anymore.
Nice. Now, what are the things that you feel are important, but that you know very little about?
Actually, so there's a professional organization for extension. And I know it's important to all my colleagues, but I have no idea what they do or why, or if I should be involved, like if my